Hmm? What? Oh, yeah. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Welcome to our Town Council workshop. This workshop was requested by Vice Mayor Mike Calley. This is the that's a little bit of delay. I thought it was somebody was talking back to me, so. All right. Mr. Clerk, if you could please take roll.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Here.
Councilmember Lord.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Callahan.
Here.
Mayor Bont.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right. All right, so this is a workshop just to get a little clarity and discuss the town's policy on COLA, and this was requested by Vice Mayor Callahan. So I'm going to go ahead and let him start this off. The floor is yours, sir.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Had called the workshop just to, like you had mentioned, provide some clarity direction on COLA. I think that the way that we're currently calculating COLA is kind of outside of what the original intent was. With that being said, I just provide a little bit of background on COLA, and a little bit of background on how we got to where we are today. So believe it or not, COLA was first introduced by Congress in 1972 as part of the Social Security Act. And the very first COLA increase was enacted in 1975. COLA was introduced as part of the Social Security Act to protect retirement accounts and retirees from having their retirement eroded by the eventual cost of living. The standard urban consumer price index is what Social Security uses to establish COLA. The urban consumer price modification for Miami-Dade County, Broward, and West Palm Beach was enacted into the price index in 1977. After 1975, government agencies and collective bargaining units folded COLA into their contracts as a means of offsetting yearly cost of living. For the most part, private businesses in the private business sector did not adopt this practice. Cost of living adjustments are more commonly associated with government programs like Social Security, government municipalities, government agencies. But some private businesses do adopt COLA. Most of them are in and around private businesses that have defense or have government contracts, such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, etc. Also, government agencies like the post office also have folded COLA in. And collective bargaining agreements, usually when you get into a large unions, Ford, General Motors, and so forth, they also kind of kidnap COLA into their collective bargaining. COLA is spelled out in the town charter for town council only. The first COLA that was okay. Yeah, so the town charter only provided a COLA provisions for the town council, but COLA did start appearing as part of the budget processing for the town of Cutler Bay in and around 2007. There were several months that that the budget, or I'm sorry, there were several years where COLA was not present within the budget. And it wasn't really until 2017 with Resolution 1730 that really codified COLA being a part of the permanent budgeting process. Also in Resolution 1730, prior to Resolution 1730, COLA for the town of Cutler Bay was based on the Standard Urban Consumer Price Index, which Social Security across the entire United States is based upon. But Resolution 1730, when it was passed by the council, which codified that COLA would be a continuing part of the budgeting process, it was also codified at that time that we would change from the urban standard consumer price index, but to also include the Miami-Dade County West Palm Beach modifier. The Miami-Dade, Broward, and West Palm Beach modifier is a modifier that was enacted because of the different cost of living in between certain municipalities. Obviously, Miami-Dade, Broward County having a slightly higher cost of living than some cities that you might find out in the Midwest. So 1730 also initially established COLA as a budgetary item. I did check with several municipalities on how they established COLA and how they currently use COLA. And the municipalities that I spoke with, they use the Standard Urban Consumer Price Index, which is based on the Social Security. One thing that I found unique among the several municipalities I talk with is that they cap COLA, right, when a employee reaches the top of their salary range. So in most cases, there's a position that has a salary range, a minimum and a maximum. And once that employee reaches the maximum, they're no longer eligible for COLA. The other thing too is COLA is determined on a rolling 12 months. Right. So when you look at the Urban Consumer Price Index, the total number changes from month to month. Right. So obviously it calculates from January to January, February to February, and so forth. So you could COLA, moves every 12 months. So it's not a calendar 12 months. It's a rolling 12 months. And that can make a tremendous difference depending on when you decide to use that total figure. So with that being said, I'm just going to offer some of the suggestions, and then obviously turn the floor back over for further discussion, but with taking into budgetary items into consideration and what we've seen over the last number of years, with what I really struggle with is that our senior or our active adults or our folks that are on Social Security and fixed incomes, whose COLA is based on the Urban Standard Consumer Price Index, receive that COLA raise, but yet we're giving our town employees based on the modification for Miami-Dade County. So it's just really hard to tell our active adults, listen, you're getting X amount of percent, but they turn around and they look at our budget, and then in our budget we have 3, 4, 5% more because we're basing it on a different calculation. So the suggestions that I would like to propose to the council, right, is that we modify Resolution 1730 to reflect COLA calculations based upon the Standard Urban Consumer Price Index as Social Security. And that we also provide a cap on COLA once an employee reaches the top of their salary range, or that there be a predetermined amount, right? So, it is, if you have some people whose some job descriptions whose range may be, from 30,000 to 55,000, right? And then you have obviously other department, when you get into department heads whose range is a lot greater than that. I don't think it's necessarily fair to say to someone who's making $55,000 a year because you've reached the top of your pay grade that you're no longer eligible for COLA. Because I think, as everybody knows, today's world is very difficult to live on some of these adopted maximum salary ranges, especially if you're, trying to raise a family as well. So with that, I would rather look at a total dollar figure rather than adopting the maximum pay range as some other municipalities have. All right. But also in modifying Resolution 1730, that we add that COLA calculations are based upon a standard month. What I've looked at is August, because that brings us right before our budgeting season, when we start getting into our budget workshops. Our fiscal year begins in September. Begins in October. And if you try to use September, we're kind of past adopting the adoption process at that point. The other thing too, that this is this conversation would be strictly based on COLA. Merit pay would be calculated, on that's a different subject, on how, we want to continue with merit pay. The merit pay is it's something that I think is a side issue. It can be discussed if you want to look at the totality of what a percentage that employees are eligible for, but that to me is a separate conversation. So anyway, that's what I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. May I ask why you decided to bring this forward? What prompted it? Was it a citizen's request? Just looking at your own?
Yes. So there have been a lot of interaction with citizens who have especially expressed concerns about the total percentage of raise. And when you combine COLA and merit, you can get up to 10 and 13%, depending on particular COLA years. There was a couple years back where COLA in itself was 10%, almost 11%, almost 11%. And then you add in anywhere from a 3 to a 5% merit in there. And we were seeing, raises between 13 and 15%, which is very, very difficult to justify to our residents, when you're looking at somebody that's on Social Security, that particular year, I think they got 8%, but even on any given year, you're looking at a 2.9, 2.8% COLA increase for Social Security, but yet it's exponentially more on the employee side. But it was the reason that I've always been concerned about this every budget season that I've gone through. But yes, I've been approached, especially last year, by many residents on trying to justify the COLA percentage.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you weren't recommending that COLA be removed, but just that the modifier be changed to be more reflective of what our town's senior citizens are. And you were also proposing a cap, which you didn't specify. You seem to be leaning towards it on a salary range cap or a maximum cap.
Yes, so I'm not suggesting at all that COLA be removed, right? I think COLA is now ingrained within government agencies and it's just part of a standard employee package. But prior to 2017, we were basing prior to 2017, when the employees did receive a COLA raise, it was based on the Urban Standard Consumer Price Index, which was what Social Security is based on. What I think is fair is that we go back to that formula, not eliminate COLA, but go back to that formula. But then again, also, right, looking at, because the other municipalities that I spoke to, when you reach the maximum of your salary range, you're no longer eligible for COLA, right? I don't think that that's necessarily fair when we're looking at lifeguards and park service aides and program assistants and STEM camp aides and so forth that are, making $53,000 a year. I don't believe that it's fair that if they max out that we say, well, no more COLA for you. That's why I think that there needs to be a stop point, but I think that it should carry more of a total dollar figure versus a max salary range, so I don't know, well, 150, 175, whatever, that is, anybody making up to that dollar figure, if they make over that dollar figure, then they're not eligible for COLA anymore.
Would you be eligible for COLA up to that range or just no COLA? For example, if you're like a progressive tax system, if let's say randomly, if you set the cap at $100,000 and it's 3% COLA, that'd be a 3% increase. But if you made $150,000, you would only get 3% on that first 100. Or are you saying get rid of it completely?
Well, I mean, it's certainly open for discussion. I mean, my initial thought, just based on my conversations with other municipalities, is that once you reach that level, you're not eligible for COLA anymore, because that's what they do. But if it certainly would be open for discussion if you're talking about capping COLA, anything over a certain dollar figure.
Counsel, do you have any questions on this? Yeah, sure. Yeah, Councilman Duncan.
Thank you very much. Not really questions, just comments. My own perspective, this is a workshop, an open discussion. My perspective, and maybe my perspective is slightly influenced by the amount of years I've worked, not just here for the town, but in the public sector, Florida International University, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Me personally, I don't have an issue with the way the current system is set up for our town. And I'll tell you why. We have 61 total employees, 42 of which are full-time, 19 are part-time permanent employees. We have 59 total COLA eligible employees. Going through the history of COLA, and not just, we can pull a 10% number out of a hat, from 2023 or, whenever the year we had the highest point. The average over that year, since COLA has been implemented, is 3%. So we have an outlier, that was 10+% in 2023, which has already come down slightly in 24. It could go down again in 25. The issue that I have specifically is if we just tie it to the urban designation, same as Social Security, that does not take into consideration what is actually happening on the ground here in Miami-Dade County, the cost of living for being in Miami-Dade County. We obviously know and consistently are being ranked as one of the most, if not the most expensive county to live in. And Cutler Bay notwithstanding, I mean, we do a great job and we're very efficient. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we were rated as one of the most, if not the most efficient municipality in all of Florida a few years back. So obviously what we're doing and how we're working with our finances, our budgets, even with the COLA policy in place as is still maximizing our town residents' dollars as much as we possibly can. Is it unfortunate that our seniors are tied to Social Security and whatever that percentage is? It absolutely is. I wish they could get more. I can't control what the federal government or what Congress does as it pertains to how they allocate what their COLA is on Social Security, on any of these other federal programs. I would advocate very strenuously and hard to our representative and the rest of the members of Congress, let's figure out a way to increase Tie it to your specific municipality based on where you live, because urban in Omaha, Nebraska is a lot less than urban in Miami, Florida. So that's one of my things. If you look at over the past 7 years since we've had COLA, the percentage of our actual operating budget that has been allocated to COLA payments over the last 7 years, on average, 0.57%. It's a very, very small percentage of money that we are actually paying out, that we're actually allocating. And from my perspective, I would rather keep the system in place based upon how much it costs to live specifically in Miami-Dade County. Because if not, we're going to lose very good people. We already only have 42 full-time employees that are making this ship go. All of us here are part-time. The people that are making this ship go, that are rowing in the right direction, we have 42 of them. And it's almost essentially 0.5% of our current budget. My other talking point based on what you were mentioning is I am also against an overall cap where you eliminate COLA at a certain point based on your salary, because that's punishing people who have been here for longer. For instance, if you started in a position that already paid higher, but you've been here for 15, 20 years, and now you're exceeding whatever the cap, that we might put in place on have you. It's almost as if we have a policy in place where you are no longer eligible for COLA because you make more than that number, what incentive do you have to continue? Or you might look around at other positions, other municipalities, whether it's in South Florida, elsewhere in Florida, elsewhere around the country. I'm looking at it as we're already very, very efficient. We already are, one of the pearls of municipalities in all of Florida. We do a very good job, and we have a very, very good town manager and town staff that are, gangbusters. They're always available. They're always working hard. They're always doing everything they can. And ultimately, what we're looking at capping the difference between what we would save versus keeping the current policy in place. Couple $10,000, $50,000 maybe, which sure, if we save $50,000 of taxpayers' money, absolutely, that's great. We can spend it. We can invest it in other ways that will benefit our town. But if we're starting to do that and we're kind of nickel and diming and we're saving X amount of dollars, and let's say we lose one of our directors, let's say we lose one of our staff members, and now we're replacing them with a job that is not as strong, with benefits and other things that are not as strong and proactive as we have been, then our reputation as an employer is going to start to take a hit. And then maybe we're not as efficient. Maybe our employees aren't adding as much value to our town as they have been, because they feel appreciated, because we have these policies in place. So just from my perspective and where we are, I personally don't have an issue with the current policy. I understand what the idea was in thinking in 2017 when the policy was first put into place. But I think it would be a mistake to not tie it into the South Florida market, just based on I'm not paying a mortgage. Our residents aren't paying rent. Our employees that may be residents who live in Cutler Bay or live in South Florida, their rents, their mortgages are not based on just urban in general, the way that Social Security is figured out. It's based on the South Florida market. We've been up, we've been down, on average 3% over 7 years, less than 1% of our budget. I think what we have works. It has worked for us. Looking at a 10% bump 1 year and having people be scared off by that, I can understand it. But when we look at the big picture, it's not like we're not giving 10% out to everybody every single year. That would be ridiculous. But it's tied into the market's up, market's up, market's down, market's down. Things cost more, it costs more. It costs less, we pay less. So ideally, we have a great market. If we're paying 10%, that means Cutler Bay houses are worth more. That means we're bringing in more ad valorem taxes that we can now use for programming, for anything else we do within our budget. I would hate to have our property values, our government operate in such a way where we can bring in, and all of us who live here and own houses and own property are reaping the benefits, and then we go and we cut out people's legs on the other end just to save a little bit of money. That's my 2 cents.
Here's the thing, right? Real quickly to to respond, okay? What we're talking about, what's fair is fair, okay? And it's very difficult for me to stand up in front of senior citizens, regardless of how it's calculated, right? And justify that our employees are receiving X amount of percentage versus when they look at what they're getting. And when you look over, we look at in 2023, 10.15, we look at 2024, a 7.72, and Social Security last year was 3.2, right? So we're talking about what's fair is fair. I mean, obviously it doesn't have a impact budgetarily. That I don't think that's a non-issue, right? But the other thing too is when I spoke to many municipalities, okay, their formula is based on Social Security, right? So I mean, we're doing, it's not, and also remember, prior to the resolution in 2017, it was based on Social Security, right? So, what's fair is fair. And and I do, if people, if the council is against a cap, then I mean, that's fine. I'm not, that's, I'm just telling you what other municipalities do, right? And so if an employee wants to leave here because we're going to, that we want to change back to where we were, right? And they go to another municipality, chances are that's exactly what COLA is going to be based on. So it's more, it has nothing to do with the budgetary, issue as more as it is what is fair across the board. That's all.
All right, Councilman Lord?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for this workshop, Vice Mayor. This is very important. The problem that we have here is that our job, first and foremost, is to be stewards of our taxpayer dollars. Our job is to encourage our employees to continue doing the stellar job that they're doing. The staff that we have in this town make us look amazing. We shine bright. I say that every time I'm up here. Our staff is amazing. I asked for a lot of information from our town manager before we came to this workshop. I reviewed our CAFRs. Those are public record. I think that everyone who's listening should pull those. What's significant and what's not being said is that if you compare the town of Cutler Bay's COLA rates with the Social Security rates from 2017 up until last year, we were aligned with Social Security. We were only increased. We were at 3.7 and Social Security was at 3.2. So we had 2 years where we had a spike. One of those 2 years, we were still able to deposit $3.8 million into our general fund. So we have 54% of our staff has been here 10 years or more. If we cap COLA, what's fair is fair. What's fair to their loyalty is not capping COLA at their highest dollar amount. That's not fair to these employees. I mean, I understand that Social Security and our active adults who are very dear to me may have a lesser amount, a lesser percentage coming in. And I'm sorry for that. Do we lobby our lawmakers and ask them to change that based on where our elderly live? Yeah, that's a great idea. But I don't think that we should, in essence, punish our long-term and actually all our employees, because what's going to listen, I'm in the private sector. I have gone 3 years without a raise and I don't get COLA and I'm capped, which means I'm going to make my salary at my current law firm for the rest of the time that I stay there. So what does that do in the private sector? If you do research, it tells you every 3 to 4 years, you're supposed to jump ship and go to another law firm, go to another medical practice, and that's the only way you're going to get raises. I'm a loyal person. I've been with these bosses on and off for 25 years. I don't want to jump ship, and I don't want our employees jumping ship. I know we're out of time, but thank you for your time.
We have about 2 more minutes. Did you want to add to that, sir? If you can, and for the council's sake, if you'd like to continue this after our council meeting, we can do that. If you'd like to wait until that moment.
You know what? Because we do have visitors here, I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
I'll do that. I'll
All
defer.
right, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this workshop and we will pick it up right after our regular town council meeting. Okay. So our workshop is now adjourned. We are 1 minute early for everybody to take a breath. And just want to make sure what heard Vice Mayor says is to eliminate COLA only for the aquatics director positions. who was shaking her head back there, the entire time. Passionately. I noticed. I was watching you, so okay. All right, all kidding aside, so we'll get it right. We have to wait until one more minute. I know we have some very distinguished guests here. And so we'll get into our council meeting in 1 minute just because we do things by the book here. So and the clock is ticking. Talk amongst yourselves for the next 30 seconds, except for Michelle. No. So. Is the recording going to be continuing on, Daniel? So we're good? Okay. All right. I'm now calling our town council meeting. Good evening, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Welcome to the town council meeting. Mr. Clerk, if you could please take the roll call.
Councilmember Lord,
I'm here.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Callahan,
Here.
Mayor Mierbach.
Present.
We have a quorum.
You all rise with me and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ralph, I see we have two very distinguished guests in our audience here, so I will go ahead and let you. I know we're going to move them up to the front so they can go ahead and. I know Omar has someplace else he has to be, I believe. So we'll go ahead, but I'll turn it over to you for a moment, Ralph, and make our introductions.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Yes, we do. We have the Honorable Senator Alexis Calatayud. There she is. Our state representative, Omar Blanco, is here as well. Our friends and firefighters, first responders from Station 3455. And also, last but not least, our own most valuable asset that we have as well in Cutler Bay, our town employees that are here as well to be recognized as well. So we have some packed proclamations. I know that if you like, Mayor, we could go ahead and do the proclamations for International Firefighters Day. It's going to be a 2-for-1. We're recognizing both Station 34 and 55, but it's going to be the same proclamation. And then immediately thereafter, we could jump into our legislative recap, and I think that might work with Representative Blanco's schedule and get you out of here just in time.
Okay, we can do that.
Thumbs up,
Real
Representative.
quick, and Mauricio, if you could real quick read the directions for the public comments.
Please be advised that when joining the meeting, you are automatically muted. Welcome to tonight's meeting. The public was able to make public comments prior to the meeting, either by leaving a voicemail message or sending an email to the town clerk. We received no voicemails or email public comments for this evening's meeting. If you wish to speak tonight, please press *9 and the host will be alerted. Pressing *9 is known as raising your hand. Once you press *9, you will be placed in a queue to speak and will be called upon by your name or the last 3 digits of your telephone number. Please wait to be called upon. Please state your name and address. If you are a hired consultant or town employee and/or if you are engaged in lobbying activities and/or representing an organization, please provide that information before speaking. Please be sure to be in a quiet area to avoid unnecessary noise. A time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed for each speaker during public comments.
All right, thank you very much. Council, if you could please join me and if Alexis and Omar, if you could also join us down here at the front, and we'll welcome firefighters. We have a proclamation we'd like to deliver to them. And Omar, you can't hug all of them. I know you worked with all of them for a long time. All right. Guys, I want to remind everyone that both of these people from Tallahassee, Omar and Senator Calatayud, work really hard for us up there. And so I just want to thank you. They're taking their time out of their schedule to be with us today is immensely important, but that just shows what type of people they are. They're always willing to go the extra mile for their the people they represent down here in South Florida. So thank you guys again for being here. So bringing the firefighters up here as well. Yeah, you. Let me put my glasses on. All right, 34 is the Ridge Rats, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. How are you?
Mr.
Good to see you.
Mr. Mayor.
How are you? Good to see you. How you doing? How are you? You doing? You doing? Good, good. See ya. See ya. On the roof, sir. Welcome. You're here. You're here. Good, sir. Good. How are you? Good. All right. If you guys just split up on 2 sides and we'll go ahead and we'll read this proclamation. Okay. 34 over here. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. All right, every 3 minutes, I want everybody to take one step to the left and circle back around, keep rotating. Okay, here we go. All right, whereas the town of Cutler Bay takes pride in recognizing those whose contributions have served to ensure the safety and well-being of all those living in and visiting our town. And whereas Cutler Ridge Fire Station 34 serves not only as a fire station for our town, but also serves as a regional emergency operations center. And whereas Fire Station 34 has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to public safety, responding to emergencies with professionalism, compassion, and speed. And whereas Miami-Dade Fire Rescue 2023 statistics show that the town received over 5,000 emergency calls, with Fire Station 34 responding to over 20% of those calls with exceptional service. And whereas the town of Cutler Bay rated Miami-Dade Fire Rescue with an overall 98% satisfaction rate, a testament to the trust, gratitude, and respect they have earned from the community they serve. And whereas these brave men and women not only respond to fires, medical emergencies, and natural disasters, but also dedicate countless hours to fire prevention, education, and community outreach. And whereas May 4th is internationally recognized as Firefighters Day, the town wishes to honor Fire Station 34 for the courage, commitment, and selflessness of the men and women who protect our lives, homes, and town. Now therefore be resolved that I, Tim Meerbot, Mayor of the town of Cutler Bay, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of the town council and citizens of Cutler Bay, call upon the good people of the town of Cutler Bay to join me in honoring the wonderful legacy of our beloved firefighters at station number 34 to proclaim May 4th, 2025, International Firefighters Day. So congratulations, 34. 55. Okay, there's 55. Okay. Ditto, 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 no. No, it just seems there's any of this. So just, okay, this is almost the exact same. I'm not going to go through and read it all because a lot of people don't like that, but station 55 has responded to over 40% of the calls for Cutler Bay. So we know you guys are working hard. We're glad that station is there. We're glad they decided to put that station there. So again, on behalf of all of our citizens, thank you very much to 55 as well. So. Yeah. Now we all pose for a picture.
Yeah.
All right, Cutler Bay on 3. All right.
All right. Guys, huh? I'll give you the.
Oh, Omar's the guy for this
Oh.
one, but
He's one of them.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. And all of you, the council and all the employees back there who do an amazing job. I know our police major isn't here, but shout out to our brothers in blue and brothers and sisters in blue. But it's a great honor. You know, my firefighters, my brothers, Councilman Rick Ramirez, a retired lieutenant or captain? Lieutenant. We'll make you a captain now. Yeah. But, you know, many of us that have gone through Station 34 had the bid there. My first suppression bid at 34. Great memories, and a lot of great history. So, but many of the folks you've seen here have been working in this area for a long time. So they are part of this community. Many of them live here, raise their families here. And it is an honor to stand amongst you all and everything that we do as a community to serve the city, town of Cutler Bay. So God bless you guys. Keep up the great work. And we'll keep you and your families in our prayers always. Thank you.
No. Everybody likes to hear from you.
just want to say thank you so much. And, you know, Cutler Bay is an incredible place to live, and it is so much more so because of the service that you provide to every resident here. Representative Blanco's done a great deal of work this past session on trying to advance the cause of supporting our firefighters, and the legislature hopes to be as supportive as possible to the work that you're doing every day and the life that you're going to lead with your family for a really long time. So we want you to know that not just as a local community in Cutler Bay, but as the state government, we want to appreciate the work you're doing and make sure that the investment that you're putting in every day is one that's matched. Thank you again.
Problem. Thank you again, guys. What's that? No. We're moving along. We're moving along. All right, be brief. You have.
Thank you. No, actually, to be honest with you guys, I work with almost every one of these guys out of 34 and sometimes at 55 and stuff like that. And I'm gonna tell you something, the dedication is off the chain. So I'm extremely proud of the proclamations today. And I want to thank my fellow council members and the mayor for making this happen. I love all you guys. And Omar, kick butt up. You're amazing anyway, so I don't have to remind you about that. So, by the way, almost 50 years in the fire service right here. Chief Paul Baker, almost 50 years, okay? Still shows up, still does the job. Much respect for you. You know I love you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Now we'll get our Parks Department to come up here, except for our Aquatics Director. Thank you, guys. My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. 50 years? Yeah, I was. Yes.
I'm Brenda Baker's father. You remember?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. Wow. Yeah, my mother was commissioner for softball. Yeah, let's do it real quick. Thank you so much. 2 more minutes.
You got 2 more for Parks Department and Public Works. Do you want to stay up?
I'll do the Public Works right after. Okay, all right. All right. Yes, sir. So, all right, guys, come on up here and they'll gather around. Give me the Parks one, please. Huh?
This is for.
Don't we have the Parks one? We don't have.
No, we're just gonna say.
Okay, I got it. Okay, all right. All right. All right, guys, real quick.
Be front and center?
Yeah, nobody, for a moment, okay. Maria. So, okay, all right, guys. Ralph, this is part of, we wanted to take a moment to recognize our Parks Department and, really our Parks Director, Etienne. I look at our staff and I'm amazed at so many of the things that you guys do that just make this town a better place. You are really sort of the soul of the town, the way that you connect to the people. All of our public events, all of our parks, the way that you're treated, the upkeep, everybody just raves about it. So you guys are doing a great job, and we just want to take a moment to say thank you very much. So we're going to we'll discuss your COLA except one at the end of this meeting, but just let you know that you are deeply, deeply appreciated. We just take this moment during this council meeting to recognize you and say thank you. So Ralph, did you have anything to say about your staff?
I think they do an amazing job, and you're absolutely right. It's the backbone, the things that you don't see on a daily basis. Alice welcoming the students, our lifeguards behind the scene, Christina Vega making sure that vendors get paid, Al and Cam, I call them the night shift, things that you don't see behind the scenes, Mayor. And again, there's a lot of other part-time folks that are missing here as well, but they do a great job. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, guys. We don't have a proclamation to read for you today, but I just want to say thank you. So thank you very much. We'll take one picture real quick, Rod. Did you already get it? Get behind the senator. Ready, wedding's dog, right? One, two. One more. Okay, Councilman Ramirez, did you want to say anything? Or are you good? Okay, no. Okay. All right, one more presentation, one more proclamation. This is great because every year this department keeps getting accolades and more accolades and winning more and more awards. So they must know somebody, or it's just a small award. No, we know you guys do a great job. So, all right. One over here in the middle. Okay. All right. All right. Whereas the public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the town of Cutler Bay. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services cannot be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of the government and private sector, who who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it's in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the town of Cutler Bay to gain knowledge and to maintain progressive interests, that the understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in the respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. And whereas this year's theme, People, Purpose, Presence, highlights 3 cornerstone ideas that motivate public works professionals to serve in their communities every day. Meeting the needs of the people is what gives public works the sense of purpose. Many times, public work professionals will never meet those whose lives have been impacted, because when things are not going right, no one knows that public works is there. Yet, with or without a fanfare, public works is ever present, working in the background to advance quality of life for all. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, Tim Mirabot, Mayor of the Town of Cutler Bay, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and on behalf of the Town Council and citizens, proclaim the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. Thank you, guys, again. Yeah, come on in here. You gonna get in here for a minute? All right, thank you very much. Thank you again, guys. You did a great job. We'll look for the. All right, Ralph, I'm gonna turn it back over to you for a moment.
And I know that we have a couple of presentations. I know we have the senator here and Representative Blanco. So I think Representative Blanco, if you'd like to, you okay? You want to come up first? Okay, right up to the podium.
All right.
We have to. I think we have the PowerPoint, Mauricio.
All right, Senator, you are recognized. Are we ready to go with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mike's on. See if the mic's on. Go.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of the work that we've been doing in Tallahassee. This has been a specifically challenging legislative session in that we've truncated the legislative session into 2 pieces. One has been the traditional committee weeks and 2-month legislative session, which has been focused in a majority of the sense on policy. The presiding officers are even today working in the House and the Senate to arrange a beginning place for the budget allocations for the Florida budget, and have not yet been able to arrive at the beginning place for the budget and for the tax policy. As we know, our residents are asking for more opportunities for lower costs of living. And, Cutler Bay is a community where you can still have that. And so many places across the state, so many places in Miami, there are limited opportunities. Not so in Cutler Bay. So what we're going to be doing in the next 2 months, looking forward into the beginning of July, is your legislators, your House members and your senators are going to be waiting on the call from the House Speaker and the Senate President on when we are going to return back to begin budget conference and iron out the final budget for the state of Florida for fiscal year 26-27. So we will keep you abreast of that. And in this presentation, I'll share with you the projects that we are still working diligently, Representative Blanco and I. I think that just helps set the precedent. So the policy that I'm going to be sharing with you is that's already been passed and has been either signed or is waiting to be signed by the governor. This legislative session, my team and I was able to help with several different healthcare initiatives. One is particularly the availability of glucagon pens within schools for children with diabetes, for more accessibility if children will have a hypoglycemic incident in schools. The other is that any state employee in the state group health insurance, and this is to act as the pilot for future expansion into the private insurance. If a young person between 18 and 45 is diagnosed with cancer, they will have access to fertility preservation services at the onset of their diagnosis, that they can make sure that if they want a family, they can still hope and dream for one after the end, God willing, of their cancer treatment. We also made sure that advanced practice registered nurses are given additional abilities to help across the state on the issues of hospice and the signing of death certificates. And we expanded the suicide and crisis lifeline call centers in Florida with the 988 number to make sure that Floridians who are in crisis have more direct access to trained professionals to help them. We expanded some of the work for home health services. We know with aging populations across the state, there's more and more need for additional home health services. And we've created greater flexibilities and maintained high levels of quality for those services and created a statewide Parkinson's research consortium. We have some of the highest amounts of Parkinson's across the country here in Florida. And unfortunately, as neurodegenerative diseases become more and more common, with our aging and population that is aged moving to Florida, we're going to be ground zero for not just the research, which is what we're focused on here, but treatment and sparking innovation and technology to support people living with Parkinson's disease. We were also able to focus in the education space within healthcare on removing requirements that were cumbersome and unnecessary for school social workers. They were required to take the teacher's entrance exams, but we're not teaching. And so to create greater opportunity for more social workers and folks that can help particularly troubled children have access to the resources they need, we've streamlined that within Florida law. We've also expanded the resources in early childhood education for students with disabilities. So we currently allocate $3 million a year to these programs for early learning with students with disabilities. And to this point, that funding was not associated with additional training. And little kids with disabilities are expelled at 3 times a higher rate than their peers in preschool. Imagine what that must be like for a parent. So we want to make sure particularly that families and parents of young people with disabilities are provided the opportunity to go to work and for their child to have a high quality education that meets their needs. We also passed a giant bill called Education that worked on everything under the sun, from early childhood education to the pre-K through 12 system and higher education. And the goal was to strengthen the education system and encourage greater investment. We're still at the part of we don't know where the budget is, but all of our focus is making sure that Florida is has the best public education system in the country. We also passed an additional legislation regarding housing and the Live Local Act. So we continue to refine the policy and make sure that its impact can be felt and that the moderate income households in our community have greater access to rentals that are affordable for them. We also worked on Brooks Law, which was the instance of a 16-year-old girl whose photos using AI generation became sexually explicit and were sent across the internet. We've created a way now for different social media platforms and even Google itself to have a process in which photos created and dispersed without a person's consent can be removed and taken from the internet and any place that it is approached. And it is now the responsibility of the social media platform to remove it. We also made sure that as municipalities like Cutler Bay, but communities across the state of Florida continue to make investments in Israel bonds, that minimum bond rating is aligned to the state, and there are no barriers to that. And the same, we focus on continued safety. It is now a crime in Florida to impersonate a rideshare driver, and there are additional penalties on top of whatever crime or criminal activity, whether it's kidnapping or worse, that happens. There's now additional penalties for that. Now, the funding that we are fighting for, Representative Blanco and I, we know one of the most esteemed programs, and congratulations, Ralph. One of the best is our Active Adults program here in Cutler Bay. And I so enjoy coming and participating in events with you all. We're still fighting for that $100,000. These two projects of water quality. So making sure that we're continuing to support the investments that you're already making in the Section 7 subbasin, as well as the 207th Street and 87th Avenue water quality improvement. We want to make sure that what you're doing, which we wish every municipality in the state of Florida would do, an investment and engagement on water quality and the control of water movement. We're also fighting for that economic development plan to make sure that we're taking everything in account that could help Cutler Bay flourish and be good partners in economic development for the future of the community, as well as the Bel Air Park Community Room. Really want to make sure that we're supportive on those initiatives. The $3.5 million for the Emergency Operations Command Center that is all about being on the cutting edge of preparedness for our constituents here in Cutler Bay, as well as being the good partners that you all deserve for the investments that you've made in the Legacy Park, and working to be supportive of that work so that we can make sure those 12 acres of park space meet their highest possible use for our residents. As I've mentioned, we are on standby waiting to jump back into the arena and to advocate for these funding priorities for our community and do our best to make sure that Cutler Bay is on the cutting edge of what we receive and bring back home from Tallahassee. We know Miami's a donor community, and it is part of our responsibility to make sure we bring back what's our constituents' tax dollars. I hope I've made clear, we are, as much as we're on the ready to go back to Tallahassee, we're ready to be responsive and on the ground working for you and for the constituents of Cutler Bay. Thank you again for the opportunity to share with you all what we're up to and what we hope to continue to achieve.
Thank you, Senator. You always have worked very hard for us and had great success doing that as well. So we know you're always looking out for our best interest. We know there's some difficult situations going on right now. Live Local Act, the governor's recent perhaps removal of taxes for property taxes, all kinds of stuff. But we know that your ear is always there to listen to us. So thank you for that. We do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Ralph, is there anything else? Yes, he's
No, Mayor, I think.
guard.
No, I just want to thank the senator and also her chief of staff, Krista, working tirelessly. I know that we get calls on Saturdays and Sundays to modify appropriations forms, and they've been working closely with our lobbying team. They're going to hear from them later. So thank you, Senator, on behalf of all the.
Thanks
Thank you.
so much.
Next, we have Senator. Representative Omar Blanco.
Get the pleasure of seeing you 2 days in a row. Or close. Wow.
I feel like I've been here. Let me put on ESPN or something. I don't need this thing. But great job by Senator Calatayud to really talk about really what we're experiencing in up in Tallahassee. It being my first session, I think being in the fire service for over 20 years has prepared me for what I went up to. We're certainly, the narrative of property insurance is taken over what I thought was our priority, which was homeowners insurance, right? And we want to keep that as a topic of discussion. We want to make sure we still talk about homeowners insurance. We know the prices are through the roof. The denials are more than we've seen in the past, and certainly holding these insurance companies accountable is part of what we're wanting to make sure we do. And Mayor, I know you have experience in this field, and I'm excited about the conversation we had yesterday on how we can do that at a federal level, and we're going to work with you on that to try to find ways to better that. The appropriations, I believe Senator Calatayud did a great job, but we're currently sitting on request about 4.5 million. Great job. I want to commend your town manager, Ralph Casal. Certainly picks up the phone on a Sunday morning like it's nobody's business and reminds us of a lot of the great work. But every time we've come here, you've provided great information. You were instrumental for me and my team when it came to understanding how the town manages the budget, the ad valorem tax, and how that whole process has ranked the town of Cutler Bay #1 in government management. Well, now what they call Doge has become Doge, right? So a lot to be proud of. I mean, I thought in looking at those books, it provided me great insight, which I've shared with both the co-chairs on the property tax committee to ensure that the #1, we look at doing that again. And I welcome the opportunity to do that by yourself, Mr. Mayor, and town manager. I think it's a great opportunity to really showcase the great work that's been done here. And more importantly, we understand that with 400 plus municipalities in Florida, that we have, we're not all built the same, right? So it's important that those things are brought to the forefront. But the committee is working hard to provide multiple options that we can look at and then learn how, with the information you've provided, see how it would affect the town and make sure that we address it properly. It's great to be here on Firefighter Appreciation Day. That was nice. We didn't plan it that way, but sure is amazing. I mentioned the guys, gals in Stations 34, the Ridge Rats, for many years. It's a long history in this community and something I know are very proud of, as well as had the pleasure of speaking to your major, Ricelli, who is phenomenal. Gave me great information, stuff that I'm going to take back with me as well. But as Senator Calatayud mentioned, our 60-day session is ongoing. We're into overtime. And we are still waiting to hear to go back. I believe we'll be back next week, God willing. But session isn't over. So while we would be providing a legislative update, we're more like in a holding pattern. And so I don't want to rehash all the great information that was provided, but I will say that much of what we've done is to make sure public safety is a priority. We worked with the sheriff, our new sheriff, Rosie Cordero Stutz, to provide some funding for multiple projects as well, and that's in play. We've really worked on strengthening our state constitution against corrupt and out-of-state agendas. We've provided relief on for condo residents while maintaining important safety measures. Protected the natural beauty of our state parks and development. It's great to see your parks team here. We know that's a big part of this community. And if you're doing the 4th of July parade or what's the Halloween parade, that's what I love about this community. We've just safeguarded on expanding nursing education and preparedness to meet Florida's ever expanding needs for healthcare, ensuring justice for families of loved ones lost due to medical malpractice, something worked on. We provide expanded resources and services for our developmental disabled community. And controversially, but we've banned fluoride in drinking water, which is a big issue for many of our Floridians. While there's a concern, there was measures taken to go with the what I believe will be the national process. One of the things that I like to encourage is, questions. While I'm coming here to give you an update, I certainly want the feedback. And I think that's something we've done really well. I've worked with many of you, if not all of you, and the information you provide me really helps me to better serve you in Tallahassee. I do appreciate you all coming up and visiting. That was very nice, very refreshing. It's always nice when someone from home comes up, but certainly want you to continue that. And the same thing to all the residents who might be watching or hear any of the constituents that want to talk about any of the issues affecting them. I think it's important. The one thing I've learned in this session is the work doesn't wait till session starts. We start now. So there are a lot of bills that we're looking at for next year. There's a lot of, even though we're not done, but we're looking at things for next year to make sure that we're staying ahead of the many issues and challenges that are coming our way with state, federal funding issues that we might have to address. I want to thank you all for your time. I do want to continue to encourage you to come up, to invite us out. Please, what was it, the last one? Not the barbecue, the cook-off, the chili cook-off. My gosh, I'm suffering from that. But it was a great time, and awesome to see our firefighters and police officers out there being part of our community. That's very special. But again, thank you very much. Thank you all. It's an honor to serve amongst a great group like this. And we will continue to be here with you and for you wherever we can be. Just let us know how we can help. Thank you very much.
Omar, again, you're, just like I said to the senator, your willingness to listen to us and have discussions with us. I know your time is valuable. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving the time.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I've got to go, but I've got to be somewhere else.
I'm glad.
God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
Can you take Ramirez with you?
Don't threaten me with a good time.
All right, Ralph.
Thank you, Representative, and Ethan as well, support staff there. And yes, we are working closely, as the representative said, Mayor, members of council, if you recall that report that we were ranked #1, that was actually done several years ago with Speaker Oliva. And the representative and the staff were actually doing a deep dive in there to see if they could resurrect that type of report, so we could, try to and the next steps. So thank you. While we're still on the same topic, Mayor, I would like to take this opportunity to go ahead and if we could go bring on Jonathan Kilman and Jared O'Rourke, are part of our state lobbying team. And then immediately after them will be Edgar Fernandez virtually. And then to wrap it up will be Laura Reynolds, who's here in person as well. So Gerald and Gerald and Jonathan, if you're on.
Ralph, can you hear me? This is Jonathan Kilman.
Yes, sir.
Great, thanks. Mayor and Council, Ralph, always a pleasure to be with you. I apologize. Again, I'm remote this evening due to some work travel. Jared will be doing the presentation, but I first just wanted to thank you all for the honor of continued representation of the town. Obviously, we work very hard for you, but we're very fortunate in that we get to work alongside Senator Calatayud and Representative Blanco. I can't tell you how well represented you are in Tallahassee. I think you know that. I think you can see it through the work that they do. And I think you'll hear a bit more about that today in terms of the results that we've had so far this session. As Senator Calatayud mentioned, it's been a complex session, to say the least. I think you're aware of some of the circumstances surrounding that, particularly with respect to the budget. But with that, I'll hand it over to Jared for more of an up-to-date presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, Mayor and Mr. Manager. It's good to see you all again. I don't want to kind of repeat a lot of stuff that's already been said by the senator and by Representative Blanco and by Jonathan, but obviously the work of the legislature finished on May 2nd. The regular session completed on May 2nd. And just quick by the numbers, there were for the 2025 session, there were 1,765 general bills filed. 97 Senate bills passed both chambers, 116 House bills passed both chambers, and at the time of the pool of those numbers, 19 had already been approved by the governor. To give kind of a flavor of how kind of session went about, in the first 8 weeks of session, the legislature passed 50 bills. In the last week of session, they passed 150 bills. So as you can see, that kind of there was an uptick and an up ramp in the work throughout the session to kind of go in at the end and kind of close out strong. As Senator Calatayud and Representative Blanco had mentioned, the budget is still not complete as of yet. The House has voted to continue and their work through till June 30th. Giving themselves additional time. The original resolution between the House and the Senate agreed to have a special session or extension to June 6th. The House determined that they wanted to have a little bit more time to give themselves a little more flexibility. So they've came in and gave an additional resolution to the 30th. The Senate is not taking the same action. I think the reason being is that we're going to see some additional movement probably next week with allocations coming in and conferencing begin. As far as what's important to the town and their budget aspect, you all had submitted a total of 7 projects or requested 7 projects to go through the budget process. I'm very, very pleased to say, and I would love, and once again, I want to say, and Ralph didn't slip me a 20 for this, but really from the hard work of Ralph and Senator Calatayud and her staff, as well as Rep Blanco and their staff, as of right now, 6 of your 7 projects have funding in either chamber, so they're all in play, and we're still going to be working on that 7th project to keep it in play. So as the budget process continues to go through, we are still actively engaged. Your representatives and senators are still heavily engaged, working the process for you on the town's behalf to see what we can get secured. There have been a couple other bills that we tracked for you that have passed and signed by the governor. We can present those. One is in relation to dangerous dogs, changing some authorization from when there's been a significant event with a dog that it now gives the authority and requires the dog to be taken from the home versus just being authorized to do so, because I believe in some issues, animal control came in issues of taking possession of the dog. So the legislature had changed that up, and that was actually approved just today by the governor. I did also want to kind of bring up and mention the select committee on the property tax reform that Representative Blanco had mentioned. On April 29th, Speaker Perez announced the creation of the select committee on property taxes. The committee is charged with reviewing the current state of property taxes and exploring policy solutions to reduce the costs of owning a home in Florida. The select committee will be meeting in the fall, beginning with a set of 5 potential reform outlines. The co-chairs of the committee are Rep. Toby Overdorf from Plant City and Representative Vicky Lopez. So they'll be meeting over the next several months to discuss the property tax reform. I know that the Representative Blanco is going to be working very closely with you all to make sure you guys are engaged and involved. With that, if there's any questions you all may have regarding session, I'm here and happy to answer as best I can. Oh, but I also just want to say once again, thank you again to Ralph, all of his amazing work, and as well as Senator Calatayud and Representative Blanco and their staffs. Been absolutely amazing to work with. You guys have great representation up in Tallahassee.
You know, I do want to thank you. So many of our projects are still in play, which is pleasantly surprising given the state up there right now. So I know that's due to a lot of the hard work that you're putting forward, as well as our representatives, Blanco and Calatayud. So is there any questions from the council? No? All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Jonathan, for all the hard work. Next, we have Edgar Fernandez. Edgar, you on the line?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, perfect. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's well. There you go.
There you go.
I'm not in an undisclosed location, but it's good to see you all. I saw you all back in March in Tallahassee. Thank you for coming up and supporting us in the process. I'll get a little bit more into the weeds from the budget. Just a couple little things I want to touch, since we're looking at, the taxes and fees and everything. One of the things that the House and Senate keeps doing are looking at how to fund these cuts. So they keep looking at trust funds and other pots of money. So when they want to balance the budget. So one of the things that I'm monitoring closely is, remember, we passed the Compact Seminole policy last year for agricultural and natural resources with the Seminole Tribe Compact dollars. The importance of this for us is that those dollars are dedicated in policy to fund the things that we care about, which are the grants for water quality, resiliency, those things. So one of the thoughts they were having is to sweep that back into the general fund, and then every year trying to appropriate the dollars from general fund into the grants, what we were doing for the last 20 years. So the House is leaning that way, the Senate not at this time, but we're watching carefully because we don't want to have the same history as that happened with the housing dollars over the years, where we kept sweeping the housing dollars into general fund to balance the budget. So those are one of the things that are in play right now that are important, because we want to make sure that we have a dedicated funding source for the things that we care for the town, which are the environmental, water, resource issues. And those dollars also support the district, our partner, when it comes to cost sharing programs. So the district themselves are going through their process on the grants. And so everybody's on a holding pattern when it comes to the agencies like the district and DEP. So DEP at this point, their grant program would have started now in May or June. And they would start collecting the grants, and then we get the announcements during the year, during the budget time. So they're putting a little pause, waiting to see what's going to happen with the budget to make sure that we have plenty of money for the grant program for DEP. So those things, the budget currently right now has the listed budget requests that the governor's asked for when it comes to grants. We have to wait to see with the member projects and also the grant programs where that dollar amount will land. But right now, they're funding the grant programs. On the resiliency, which the town has been a leader, and it's been great. We've got our vulnerability assessment completed. And what the importance is, as you all recall from our last briefings, now the state has required that we need the assessments to be able to get implementation dollars. That grant program, the deadline is September 1st. I have not heard any delays or any changes since it's so down the road, but this is now we're ready to put in for those resiliency dollars for implementation projects for the town. And I mean, the manager has spoken several times, so we're going to focus on those grants and prepare for the other grant season. So when the monies come in, we're ready and we drop the grants, and we can then work on the political process of getting these grants approved. On the other issues, when it comes to resiliency, Mr. Manager, we're going to have the resiliency conference in September that you all participated last year. This year, we've picked Punta Gorda, Florida. We had over 600 participants and 95 papers last year, believe it or not, on people sharing and working together on resiliency. And so we have a deadline of June 2nd for any city, town, or anyone that wants to engage in the conference to bring in the white papers. And then we'll announce those papers in July. And then the conference will be in September, hopefully not a committee week, right, Gerard? And so, but we're focusing on moving the needle on resiliency in our projects. Even if we got bumps on the road, we've got to spend the money, get the projects done so we can get the next pot of money so we can finish the projects that we're focusing on. But that's just a little quick overview on the grants and everything. I don't know, Mr. Manager, if we got any other questions in specific, but I did send you earlier today a kind of a partial end of session report on policy and things. And so if there's any questions from, Gerard or me, we could always get back to you, on the bills. But there's a lower number of bills this year, like you said, about 200 and something bills compared to 300 and something last year. And so, this is our fourth session of the year, as I'm telling people. We went through 3, and this is our 4th, and we're not even in June yet. So there's a lot going on, but it's important that the manager, continue being responsive as you all are, because now when the governor's office starts reviewing those projects, they're going to ask questions, and we don't want to miss that phone call, because that's when they start doing the veto pen. So being responsive is a key to make sure that the funding comes down to the town. And that's all I got for tonight, guys. And I'm sure I'll see you at the golf tournament or at the League of Cities.
I'm hoping both. So thank you for any questions from the council. No.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Edgar, working together with our Lana team. And last but not least, we have Laura Reynolds. She's here live in person. Laura.
So good to see you. I did have a handout. I don't want to be repetitive, but the handout that I want you to take a look at is this one. It has been a really rocky session. So, and everybody talked about that. But I do want to focus in on some of the environmental highlights. The biggest highlight is, of course, the State Parks Bill SB 80 passed. And it did get the Snyder amendments, which were improving it to make sure nothing could be built in our state parks that wasn't appropriate. So that's like the best news. And the governor did say he was going to sign it. I don't think he signed it yet, but he did verbally commit to doing that. So that's a big win. That was a big focus for a lot of environmental groups. However, the House budget on many line items. And if you look at page 2, there's a little graphic at the top. And that little graphic just does a side-by-side of all the things we care about on environmental issues, whether it be Florida Forever, the Biscayne Bay grants. Of course, they are listed as being funded at the moment. But we're still in this negotiation process, so you never know, where it's going to end up. Unfortunately, the EEL funding that we were working for didn't even get a line item. Florida Forever didn't even get funded. So it doesn't mean we'll give up on that. There was a suggestion to put forward a specific project for Cutler Bay with the 8.5 acre area, the 2.1 acres that would be the SERP spreader canal could be put forward as a separate project to be funded through the EEL program, and it could be a specific project. So there's been a lot more success with specific projects rather than just funding the whole program. So that might be a strategy for next year. The other thing is, you can take a look. This is our one pager that we put together to try to get funding for the EEL program. Again, we do need to keep chiming in, even here in Dade County during the budget process, asking for funding for the EEL program. It's one of the best ways we can protect the land that surrounds Cutler Bay, and that's going to be the best way to protect us from flooding and to make sure that we have clean drinking water and an improved Biscayne Bay. So the biggest thing that we can do to help Everglades restoration is secure the footprint for those restoration projects. The other bills I wanted to focus on are not good. So take a look at the bills that passed on page 2. The first 2 are not very good. So 1080 passed. Unfortunately, you may have remembered the warehouse project that we all took a position against. We defeated that project by setting a precedent in law that you have to complete the process within 180 days unless you formally request an extension. So this bill has language in it that changes that precedent in law. And what they're trying to do is allow these applications, these development applications, to remain stagnant. They can have one hearing and then all of their data can just sit there and sit there and sit there, and no decision is made, and it can come back at any time at the developer's discretion. So the problem with that is the information becomes stale, it's old. You want there to be a timeline so the information is new and fresh. And that's why there is a 180-day time limit. Unfortunately, this bill that passed would change that. I don't think it's a good thing. And of course, it could be used to sort of, use old information to make decisions. The second one, SB 492, the mitigation banking bill. So we have a shortage of mitigation credits here in Dade County. And there's proposals to destroy wetlands all the time. Unfortunately, we don't have enough mitigation banks at the moment, but there are many that are coming forward and are planned for the future. What this bill would do is allow you to get mitigation credits elsewhere in the state. So we wouldn't get the benefit of those new wetlands or restored lands. That's a huge problem for Everglades restoration. It's a huge problem for our flooding issues, for the impacts that are here locally. It's supposed to be in the basin, and that's the rule. It's a rule that we even try to follow at Dade County. It's written in our code, but sometimes if there aren't credits, they can go elsewhere. There is a way to get out of it. This would just allow it as a blanket rule. The other thing is it reduces the amount of credits that you need to actually compensate for the destruction. So again, all in all, this is a terrible bill. And then, let's see, if you go to the very last page, it just lists the veto requests that should take place across, whether you make the request or you make the request with several other municipalities. I know that there are counties that are doing that. Right now, mitigation banking, 1080, and of course, 180. 180 is a terrible bill. I don't know if it's already on your radar. It probably is, okay? This is one that's ripe for all municipalities locally to do maybe a sign-on letter asking the governor to veto this bill. I won't go over the details if it's already on your radar, but it is listed there for you. The other thing is, the budget isn't over, so of course we need to keep advocating for all of those great environmental line items that are in this report. And I'm here with any questions if there's anything I missed.
You covered a lot. I do appreciate you putting it together. It really helps us kind of get a visual on what's out there. Didn't realize it was so dire in many of these areas. So.
Yeah, it's not looking so good for a lot of the environmental priorities, especially on the House side. At Friday's Coastal Mayors meeting, I'll make a few additional recommendations to all the coastal mayors, and I think sign-on letters with all of the municipalities would be a great way to express some concerns over these, especially the environmental bills. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ralph.
Okay. Thank you, Laura, for all your help and from all the way from Tallahassee all the way to the 111 building. So thank you. Mayor, members of council, next we have our monthly report from Ms. Emma Jones regarding our Legacy Park project. If we could get Emma online here.
Good evening, everyone. Emma Jones with Stantec, owner's rep for the town of Cutler Bay. I just want to give a quick monthly summary report of what has been going on out on the site. As you can see, this is what it used to look like before we started. We are definitely underway. So the original total estimated tons of soil export was 98,546. The import, obviously 194,229. So total tons to date, we have exported 7,298 tons, which equates to 958 truckloads. And we have imported 55,829 tons, which is 2,521 truckloads. So the export percentage complete is 8% and the import is 29%. These are some great images to show, and I think they really explain where we are in the process. It's a great timeline. So obviously start of construction, very overgrown. You can see down here on the 21st of April, starting the tree clearing and the grubbing. Then up here on the 24th of April, the construction entrance was put together. On the 30th of April, the truck wash station, which is really important, was installed. Then May 1st, obviously you can see that all of the tree clearing and grubbing had been completed and the soil excavation had started. And then May 8th down here on the bottom right really shows how much has been done. And it's pretty amazing how quickly it's going. And then this is just a project timeline that I wanted to share that just sort of shows the process of where we are and obviously how much there is more to go. The soil excavation and removal, we're here sort of beginning of May. We've got until at least September. Then the soil import and compaction will go from sort of middle end of May through November, and then there's the closeout phase at the end of the year. And this may extend a little bit into next year. So don't be surprised if you still see dirt moving at that point. It's going to be weather dependent, of course. The design is ongoing during all of these construction activities. So, and the design is for phase 2, which is the vertical build. The design development phase has been completed, and we are now in the construction document phase. The team is doing a great job working together. The architecture team is working through the design assist process with the contractor to make sure that, you know, materials, methods, etc., are being analyzed the entire way through this process. And then the goal is to have the design finalized by, I would say, July, middle of August, and that's going to be basically, we're going to get the cost estimate back. We may have to tweak and tune a smidge, and then get the final in August, and then our documents will go in for permit approval. So while all of these design phases are going on and the phase 1 is under process, we will be doing the estimate for phase 2. And as I said, that design assist process of the checks and balances all the way through to make sure that by the time we get to the end of this, we have a design that is not only exactly what the town wants, but it also fits within the budget. And that's really our main concern. So the other thing we have going on, we are following up with the EPA, and with our submission for that, we've got some questions going back and forth. But that is the update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Counsel, any questions? No. Thank you, Emma. Appreciate it.
And thank you, Emma. Okay. Next, we have our friends from Kimley-Horn regarding Franjo roadway improvements. We have Stefano. I think he's online.
Sorry, I was muted. Good evening, Ralph. Stefano with Kimley-Horn. Jumping into the Franjo Road update. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This is our May update on the Franjo Road project. I believe the slides are up showing the boards. It's not.
We're bringing them up now.
Perfect. Thanks, Ralph.
On. There you go.
Perfect. So Janet will come up in a minute here to talk about the public involvement. As we jump into construction activities, we are continuing to hold our bi-weekly progress meetings with the contractor, the town, and the EOR and ourselves. Work Zone 1 has been completed and was open to the public. It's just from Franjo, from 184th to Sterling Drive. Acosta is currently finalizing Work Zone 2. They've run into a couple rain delays and looking to open that to the public by no later than the second week of June. They've got some final streetscape improvements, some pavers, some landscaping, and some finalizing of the signing and marking to wrap up here, and then they'll have that area open to the public. Work Zone 3 was started a little bit back and has continued. They continue with installing drainage. They're in the area of 192nd Drive currently. And once Work Zone 2 is open to the public, we will modify Work Zone 3's MOT to be the entire Work Zone area. We will put out a flyer to the public, which we are currently working on and hope to have out this week, showing the details for that Work Zone 3. At all times, Acosta is keeping the area safe and clean. We are continuing to work with residents when items come up. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Janet to talk about public involvement.
Hi there. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to give you a brief update on my continued engagement with the residents. I am focusing right now on phase 3. It's going to be a few months before they're finished. So right now they're in the thick of it. Fortunately, I've gotten pretty good feedback from the residents. I guess, well, they have mentioned that phase 1 and phase 2 look so good that they're looking forward for their street to be completed and nice as well. And basically that's it. It's going to be this is a long stretch. Phase 3 is a long stretch, so it's going to take some time. Any questions? No? Okay, have a great Memorial weekend. Don't party too hardy.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Stefano.
Ralph, just to add on that, work zone 3 is looking to be completed in August 25. Obviously, we're hitting the rainy season. There may be some delays due to that. We don't anticipate those to be major, but to be fair to Acosta, there may be some days. I'm hoping we get some rain that's kind of needed here in South Florida, which may impact their schedule, but August 2025, zone 3 should be completed.
Okay. Thank you, Stefano. It's always kind of, weird when we talk about the rain. Some projects need it, some projects don't, right? But thank you, Janet and Stefano. Next we have Mr. Michael Goldstein regarding an update to Blue Heron Park. Michael, thank you for the wait.
Mr. Manager, happy to be here. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, Mr. Town Attorney, Michael Goldstein with the Goldstein Environmental Law Firm, your environmental counsel. Here to present a brief update on Blue Heron Park. If we can get this going. There we go. Okay. By way of review, back in July of 2023, this is how we got there. We were conducting a background arsenic investigation at Legacy Park. And in doing so, we uncovered arsenic at Blue Heron Park, filed that under no good deed goes unpunished, exceeding the residential soil cleanup target level. Your town manager swung into action and engaged an environmental team to conduct a wide-ranging soil investigation, very concerned about public health. A series of reports were generated by the town's environmental consultant, Kimley-Horn, and submitted to our very good friends at Miami-Dade County Durham, our regulatory agency partner. Those reports were filed on October 14th, January 19th, and January 29th of this year. Durham has been engaged with us in a very collaborative way, providing guidance to the town every step of the way, including both in written correspondence and in person via virtual meetings. On April 15th, 2025, we're now ahead of where we were the last time we were providing an update to the council, which was back on December 4th. On April 15th, the town filed through Kimley-Horn a source removal and soil management plan that sets forth the scope of the planned source removal or the removal of arsenic impacted soil. It had 5 material components, the first of which is on the screen. We're going to excavate all of the impacted soils across the 5-acre site, all the way down to groundwater and all the way to the property boundaries, making it completely safe for public health and public use and recreational enjoyment. The soils will be transported to an approved landfill facility, just like we're doing at Legacy Park, under appropriate and manifest protocol. We have a lot of very expensive trees out there that I know the town manager and his staff work to find grants to pay for. We're going to attempt to save every one of those trees by taking care to create what are called tree protection zones around each of them, with a qualified arborist working very closely with Kimley-Horn to ensure that the heavy excavation machinery doesn't come too close to the root structures. And no such construction activity will start until that plan is approved, passed on, and implemented. And then when the work is done and all of the clean backfill is brought in, all of the impacted soil above the residential cleanup target level will be gone. There will be a little bit left around the root balls. We'll cover those with a Durham-approved engineering control, again, to protect public health. Once the soil work is done, the park can actually be reopened. We'll talk about a schedule for that in a while. In the interim, we will be conducting a groundwater investigation, which is approved sequencing by Miami-Dade County Durham. And once that groundwater investigation is completed, we will likely have to engage in groundwater monitoring for a year to ensure that any arsenic impacted groundwater isn't migrating off-site, that it's resident and stable and not shrinking, or stable and or shrinking. And once that happens, what we will do is record a covenant, a declaration of restricted covenant that will have groundwater use restrictions, which is fine because we're not drinking the groundwater anyway from beneath the park. The covenant will also ensure perpetual maintenance of the engineering control around the base of the trees to provide assurances to the regulators that public health will be protected forever. So that is the plan. Durham took 30 days to review it, and today, just this morning, they issued an approval letter. We ran the table. All of the material points in our source removal plan and our soil management plan were approved. And as a result of that approval, the town manager is ready to swing into action. We are going to let out bids for the source removal to no less than 3 contractors by next week. By this time next week, we want to move very quickly. Responses will be due 1 week thereafter. So we hope to have all of the responses in hand by June 4th, which is in 2 weeks. A contractor recommended by the town manager will be brought back to this council on the 18th for a vote. And then assuming a favorable vote, we anticipate that the work will commence no later than August 1st and conclude by no later than October 1st. And with a little luck, we'll conclude in November. When we were back before you on December 4th, we indicated that we were hopeful that we could complete the source removal event and all of the backfilling by third quarter of this year. So we remain on schedule, notwithstanding the significant technical challenges of remediating an arsenic impacted park for public use. We're hopeful that the park will be completely reopened by no later than December 31st of this year. And if we catch a little brownfields lightning in a bottle, we'll open sooner than that. And speaking of brownfields, your town manager is looking to capture every efficiency possible and every last dollar. So he has recommended that we consider a brownfield area designation for this parcel also. We won't call it a brownfield. We're going to call it a green reuse area. And if we're successful, the cash recapture through the sale of tax credits will likely be cash on cash, 45% to almost 68% for all out-of-pocket costs for soil excavation and disposal, backfill material, even some environmental consulting costs, planning and engineering support, and your humble environmental lawyer. And that is our report.
Let me ask you a question. The residential target soil cleanup level for arsenic, do you know how that was set? And because when we're up in Tallahassee, we're speaking to some of the legislators up there, and it's the Speaker of the House and stuff who questioned whether there's any danger of the arsenic levels at these that they're set at, and whether it's naturally occurring, and whether there's really a need to remove it or not. And nobody I seem to talk to down here has really an answer for that. So do you know how they set those, and is there any science behind the danger?
There is a lot of science behind those, behind every cleanup target level promulgated in state law. Those are codified by the legislature. They're developed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They're based on a carefully thought out and detailed formula, risk assessment formula that's premised on a 1 in a million or 1 times 10 to the minus 6 cancer exposure risk. Now, with respect to arsenic, you make a great point, Mayor. The good Lord has blessed Florida soils with a lot of naturally occurring arsenic. And there is a material distinction in terms of how impacted sites are cleaned up and redeveloped based on whether arsenic is naturally occurring or arsenic is what's called anthropogenic, a result of human activity or mechanical activity. The Reader's Digest version of the distinction is this: if arsenic is naturally occurring, it's present in the environment in soil or groundwater by God's good grace, then provided you're not doing anything to the medium that contains the arsenic, whether it be the soil, the sediments, the muck. We have a lot of arsenic in muck because muck is highly organic. We have a lot of arsenic on our barrier islands because crustaceans have a lot of arsenic. Provided you're not doing anything with respect to those materials, you can leave them in place and they're not subject to regulation. But once you take them out of the ground, once they become subject to development activity or construction activity, magically they become a waste and they're regulated and they require handling pursuant to the rules that exist for contamination cleanup. With respect to arsenic, that's the result of human activity, anthropogenic activity like agricultural use, for example, or what you might see at a golf course. Those are subject to regulation from the get-go. Now, in terms of the risk to public health, arsenic is arsenic is arsenic. So there are the cancer risk is no greater or no less, irrespective of the fact that it's naturally occurring or anthropogenic. But there is a very legitimate policy discussion to have about whether arsenic that's naturally occurring should result in horrific remediation costs for anyone, much less local governments that are challenged economically and where it doesn't seem logical to require a very intense level of redevelopment if by and large these sites are going to remain in their natural condition.
So, example for Blue Heron Park, do you think we would have a chance of being successful, of maybe appealing the decision from Durham at Blue Heron because the cost of that is, I think it's kind of almost prohibitive. It's a big bite for a local government to take. Would there be a chance of appealing the decision?
Well, it's a very big bite for a local government. There are options that can be taken with respect to the remedial approach applied and approved by Durham. For public parks, in my experience, local governments typically err on the side of caution and want to remove as much material as possible, even though it's frequently the case that for recreational use, a higher standard than the default residential exposure standard can be approved in just about every county but Miami-Dade County. So Miami-Dade County is a little different in that regard. At the state level, for recreational reuse, there is an alternative soil cleanup target level that's generally accepted of 5.5 parts per million in soil. Okay, that's compared to the 2.1 parts per million residential standard. The reason for that is under state law, an additional or superseding risk assessment based on science prepared by a toxicologist can be presented to the regulators that demonstrates exposure scenarios are different and not as precarious as they would be for residential use. Folks who enjoy a park aren't going to have the same duration at the park as maybe someone who lives in a home and is in their backyard every day, eating sandwiches on the porch and rolling around in the dirt with their dog. And as a result of that different exposure scenario, the numbers can be elevated on a statewide level, again, for recreational use, which would otherwise apply to the park. That number is 5.5 parts per million. In Miami-Dade County, it's about half that. So if there's legislative relief, Mayor, which I think is what you're asking about, which is a smart idea, it would be to go to Tallahassee and ask for parity. At the very least, that Miami-Dade County not have a different standard than the standard that's applied to other counties.
Sounds like a potential. So Ralph, if we could follow up on that. Council, forgive me for taking a road down there, but again, it's a lot of money that we're spending, so we want to try to do what we can. So we'll probably be talking to you about it a little bit more. So thank you for the summary on that.
You're welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
And thank you, Michael, for the detailed response, and we'll be talking soon. Hey, Mayor, next was my report, but I think we've exhausted a lot of time. So
What day is this? Yeah. No, what dais? Oh, we're on the dais. Okay. I need to open up the floor for public comments. So anybody wishing to speak at this point, public comments is now open. Come forward. As there is nobody here in the auditorium, is there anybody in the queue wishing to speak?
No one in the queue.
Okay, public comments is now closed. Ralph, you said you're done with your report, correct?
Yes, sir. That's
All right. Mitch, sir, do you have a report?
No.
Great. Recess, sir, do you have a report? Okay, take this to the consent agenda. Any polls from the consent agenda? If not, looking for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Looking for a second.
I second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Believe it or not, we're back to public comments again. I'm gonna open up the floor one more time for public comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Auditorium, there's nobody here. Anybody in the queue?
No one in the queue.
Public comments is now closed. That takes us to item 8A. If you could please read item 8A.
An ordinance of the mayor of the town of Cutler Bay, Florida, establishing the candidate qualifying period for the 2026 municipal general election and establishing the runoff date if necessary, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Right, Mauricio, sir.
Yes, so as required by the charter, we have to set our qualifying dates for the next election, which is coming up very shortly. Also, we set our runoff date. The runoff date, I kind of followed along with what we've done in past elections and set it for a month. Before we had set it 2 weeks and it seemed like too short of a time. We also had the elections department last elections kind of asked most of the municipalities to at least put them a month out to give them time to be able to prepare the ballots and be able to mail them out on time. Some municipalities had it like a week or two out and it was just not much time for them to work with. So if you guys are all right with those dates, that's fine. If you would like to push it or make it a little later, that's also your decision at your discretion at this point between first and second reading, but I just kind of kept it the same a month out.
Okay. I kind of like that idea that, it makes it easier if we're working with the elections department on that. Counsel, do you have any opinions on that? Contrary? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we know what other municipalities are scheduling? Because I would imagine if we piggyback on whatever their dates are, it would be cheaper.
Correct. So usually we end up piggybacking on average with like about four or five different municipalities for the runoff. Now, granted, it also depends if they have a runoff or not. If they all have a runoff, we all piggyback. If we're the only one that have a runoff, then the cost kind of falls on us for the runoff.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Looking for a motion on this ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Ramirez, looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lord. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lord,
Yes.
Councilmember Duncan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Callahan,
Yes.
Mayor Mirabun.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Councilman Lord, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be very brief. This is probably maybe the longest meeting I've ever attended in the 5 years I've been doing this. I wanted to add to my report on Monday. The mayor, council member Ramirez, myself, and the town manager were at Mayor Cava's budget meeting, which was across the street at South Dade Regional Library. I bring that up because I had the distinction of meeting the new Animal Services Director, Annette Jose. I know that our staff has gone out to Animal Services and met with them as well. And we were able to follow up on the conversation that we had on the dais last month about collaborating with Animal Services, with the Youth Council, and with our active adults. So I wanted to let our council here know that we're still working on that. Staff is going to try and arrange some stuff. And also quickly, but I find this to be quite important. I wanted to recognize a group of 10-year-olds at Wiggum Elementary. They're involved in a STEM club that is after school. They're called the Electrons. This group of highly intellectual individuals were invited to compete at the World Championship in Dallas, Texas. One of the fathers met with me and through Council Member Ramirez, Arturo Escribano, who we all know well. And he was seeking ideas for funding or funding from us. And through our meeting with him, I was able to introduce him to Commissioner Daniel Cohen-Higgins' office, who happily provided some funding for the trip to Dallas, Texas. And he was also able to connect with school board member Luisa Santos. So these young 10-year-olds placed 23 out of 88 in their category. And I'm very proud. They're all Cutler Bay residents, albeit our young residents. And I'm asking staff, I've already asked them to work with the school board to potentially have them come at our next council meeting for public recognition with the mayor and some pictures. So I just wanted to congratulate them publicly.
All right, thank you very much. All right, then we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting then at this time. So this meeting's adjourned, and we're going to pick up our workshop again, and I guess we're about to speak, go to Councilman Ramirez for comments.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I've been involved in contract negotiations with the fire department, you know, in my time on the executive board and stuff. And, you know, every 3 years we had to fight for contracts. Some were good, some were zeros. You know, it just depends on the whims, you know, of those involved. The numbers we're looking at when we looked at the CPI and the Social Security thing, and actually ended up being around 3%, just a little bit more than 3%. Some at 10, some at 0.7. I mean, you know, you don't know what you're going to get until the time comes. So in thinking about this and looking at caps too, I don't have a problem if we would actually consider a cap at 3% when for the COLA, for the COLA itself. And I'll get to a little bit more about that as we go on here. I looked at the merit. I also believe that we probably could do a bonus instead of a percentage, which does a couple of things. One, it allows those who might max out sooner, maybe not to max out as soon, and still get the same amount of money that they were looking at had they done that. On top of that, and again, that would stabilize kind of the budgetary process, because you would kind of have an idea what it's going to be every single year, and that would be on merit, on their anniversary dates, things of that nature. That's my proposal on that, but it could change to possibly a yearly, once a year thing. But we also talk about trying to keep our employees. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of municipalities that go out and try and scoop everybody up that they can. So I have been tossing around possibly a longevity amount, possibly like we did in the fire department, every 5 years, you get a longevity step. That would be a percentage, and that would, you know, carry on going forward, whereas the bonus money actually doesn't do that in the same realm. So to me, we have a responsibility to the citizens, to the residents, we have a responsibility to our employees, but I think this method kind of helps us keep the people that keep this town running as well as it does. And at the same point, it kind of fixes the issue with the up and down scales of the CPI and the Social Security measure and stuff like that. So I wanted to put that out there because I think that's something we possibly could look at as maybe a win-win for both sides. So that's just kind of putting it out there. Now we talked about the COLA and the caps and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to tell somebody who dedicates their life to this town after 20, 30 years that, guess what, as Councilmember Lord sits in, she's been in that business a long time and does probably more work than anybody else in her office. I guarantee that guess what, you're not getting a raise. So, you know, I'm not stuck on capping, you know, final amounts after so many years, but I think the longevity kind of balances that out if we do go that route. So that's the information I wanted to put out, and I try to keep it as brief as possible. So thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Callen, you have anything further you wanted to add on this?
Yeah. So let me just be up front on a few things. One, it's not about eliminating COLA. Okay, it's about being fair. Two, these numbers are totally inaccurate. Okay, so we're not looking at accurate numbers. Their percentages are absolutely skewed. Okay, so you know when you know looking at the proper information, right? It puts things more into perspective. the modifiers were created in 1977, but yet they were created for economic comparison, right? And not necessarily to base COLA on, right? But I certainly understand to Councilmember Duncan's point regarding the modifier for Miami-Dade County. I still have an issue with our employees receiving a modifier if our residents don't. But again, to Councilmember Lord's point, if put my ego aside, and maybe that's something we fight in the legislature. Okay. One of the reasons that these numbers are skewed is because of the way that they're calculated. Okay. There's no way that Social Security received, that the town received a 0.03 and Social Security was, 2.8, as an example, right? The Miami-Dade County modifier is always going to generally be higher. Okay. And it also takes into determine when you pull these numbers. Okay. The CPI numbers are published, they're published 6 times a year. Okay. They're published in February. They're published in April. They're published in June. They're published in August. They're published in October, and they're published in December. Okay. In December, there is an average of all of those consumer price indexes that were published on those 6 months. Those 6 months are then divided by a formula, and then that's how Social Security is determined. Okay. I mean, I certainly have listened to the council and their concerns. If again, like I said, we're not eliminating COLA, but if it's the will of the council to continue to move forward with COLA based on the Miami-Dade County, Broward, West Palm Beach modifier, I would then suggest that we modify Resolution 1730 to specifically spell out how we calculate COLA, and that COLA should be based on the August publication of each year. That would give us a definite percentage that we would be able to determine, as opposed to, picking one here, picking one there, waiting till the end of the year. The reason I say August is because that gives us time to be able to calculate it into our budgets. The way that 1730 is written, it doesn't clearly define how to calculate it. It says what you should use to calculate it, but it doesn't take into consideration the publishing of COLA of CPI 6 times a year and specify a specific month that COLA can be based upon. That would be my modification to to 1730 to bring that calculation more into control. Anyway, that's my compromise.
Okay. I appreciate all the discussion. My thought on COLA was, again, I wish if everybody got it, then it would be an inflationary effect for all across the board. However, government employees are in a little bit different than the free market economy. Not as much mobility to move, for one thing. Yeah, and I do. With COLA is supposed to be the cost of living, but to your point earlier, how much of your salary is going to the cost of living and how much is going into other things above and beyond cost of living? And if it was meant to be something to protect people's ability to afford things, I would certainly think that whether you cap it at the salary maximum level would not be as harmful if it was only applied at a certain level above, whatever. I mean, again, we have many employees making 50,000, something 100,000. So I think it would be prudent for us to continue discussion on whether we would do that, but we're not here to vote on that tonight. This is a workshop for us to kind of spitball ideas around. I wasn't sure where you're going to be going with this, so I want to go ahead and kind of look at digest the things that you've said. I think everybody here as well digest what the rest of the council has said on this as well, to see whether our citizens asked us to look at it. We have. And there's some good points on either side, some good points to leave it as it is, and maybe some good points to alter it slightly. The main thing is, I think we're all in agreement that we would not want to eliminate it, which is the main thing. So, Vice Mayor, you seem like you have a lot of solid ideas on where you think something reasonable would be, and you've heard the other comments of the council to maybe figure out some links which would be acceptable to the council. So I would suggest that perhaps you draft up a resolution with the staff to see if there's something that you could present to the council. Gives us additional time to digest our own thoughts, and we can have an open discussion that time on whatever resolution you bring forward to fine tune it. So is everybody sort of in agreement with that, or did you want to have anything more discussion on it tonight? Okay, everybody agree? Okay, Officer?
Thank you, Mayor. And we're here also, to provide any type of support, but I just want to clarify a couple of things that were said. One, in Resolution 1730, it says to take the April factor for the Miami, for a lot of it says it there in the resolution, says the April meeting, the April factor. If Maurice, if you could put up on the screen the COLA comparison, because I know the Vice Mayor said there was something that were inaccurate. I just want to make sure we clarify that, while the council's here. I don't want to leave with that impression at all. If you go to the chart where it says the COLA versus Social Security for me.
I believe.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Just want to get to that chart.
One up.
Oh, sorry, it's a bunch of clicks.
Down. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so right here, Mayor. So you're absolutely right, Vice Mayor. When you look at this chart that we have here, and I'm just going to explain it to the council, this shows the COLA effective since 2017 compared to Social Security. You're absolutely correct. There is an error on the chart. For example, if we could just hover over 2017. The screen there, yeah. That fiscal year, that calendar year should have been 2016, and then all the way through it should be just one number over, meaning 2017 should be 2016, 2018 should be 2017. But those numbers there are accurate because I do have the Social Security that's published on a yearly basis. And let me just read off these numbers because again, I deal in facts. I just want to make sure. For example, in 2017, okay, in 2016, according to Social Security, it was 0.30. So again, that's an error. We caught it. You're absolutely right. That should not have been even published that way and given to the council. My error. In terms of 2017, the Social Security was 2.0. Ours was 2.76. In 2019, the Social Security was 1.60. Ours was 1.78. In 2021, 2020, Social Security is 1.30. Yes, there is an anomaly there. See, ours was less, 0.86. The calculations here, we have it here. I have the finance director on the line. We also have the worksheets here. That's part of what we do for the budget. So you're absolutely right. It is confusing. I'll clean that up and forward that to the council. All we're doing is shifting the years.
So how do you get the 3.23% at the bottom on Social Security?
It's just an average. I mean, I could have.
If you take 2017 and you add up all those numbers and you divide it by 8, unless I failed math, so help along here, comes out to 12.13%.
It can't come out to 12.1. The highest number is 8.7, so the average would have to be underneath it.
Right. So
add all those up.
And then divide by
8. And divide
by 8.
I could do the math if Robert's at home, or maybe could.
That's my calculator.
No, I just want to make sure.
3.225. So it's raw 3.23.
All right. But you're absolutely right, Vice Mayor, that the information is shifted over 1 year. In fact, one that's not on the chart that is for 2024, which would be 2.5. We already calculated for next year's budget based on the existing resolution. 2017 will be 3.64. 3.64. So it is misleading when you look at that because it is an error on the report. And again, I've said it 4 times.
But
the numbers are right. It's just the years are shifted. And
the averages are close to right. And so what we're really looking at is over the 8 years is a 0.5% difference. But the reason it was highlighted is because it is kind of a shocking number of a 10. When you have a double digit number there, that's kind of shocking to the people that are looking at it, want to know explanation. We
Yeah.
provided that explanation, gave a little bit more history behind it, and that's what we wanted to do for this council for our discussion. So at this point, I don't want to beat this in anymore. I think we have a good understanding of what it's about. And I'll let the vice mayor see if he wants to draft up a resolution for us to consider approval or denial.
Absolutely. And again, I will provide the updated reports. That way you at least have the factual data. We'll work closely with the vice mayor. We've talked about it before and come back with a plan. But I certainly apologize for that because it is a little bit misleading when you look at the years, but the math, the percentages are correct. The year's off by 1. Thank you, Mayor.
Council, anything further? No. All right. This workshop is closed and this meeting is adjourned.